Hey, this is Gavin with the Dueling Fates Gaming, and today I'll be doing an unboxing and a general component overview of Hoplomachus Victorum. This is a solo-only game developed by Chip Theory Games, and this is derived from the original Hoplomachus gaming line that they did. I've already opened this box up and I've gone through the components to remove any plastics just so I didn't have to do that during the video. But alright, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to slide the box over here and we'll start diving into these components. Alright, first up we're going to go over our rulebook. This is going to be a 39-page long rulebook. It has a thicker cover just to protect the inner pages better. You have a table of contents. You have a list of all the components in the game. I won't dive too much farther into this as we'll cover the components as we go. But some key pages that you'll have to know about for this is on the back cover you have the quick reference guide. This is going to give you a general idea of the play sequence as it happens. To the left of that we have hero details. This is going to cover the 8 heroes of the game and your starting tactics, starting units, things like that. Also has some flavor text there. Just to the left of that you're going to have a list of key terms that you should be referencing during your probably your couple first playthroughs, and you also have a reference for unit skills. This is going to be a separate sheet, and both are double-sided, and this is going to be at the bottom of units on the chips. There's going to be either one word or 2 words that don't really describe what they do, and that's because you're supposed to reference this to see exactly what they do. For example, if you see absorb on a chip, you're not going to know exactly what that does, so you're going to reference this, and it says when this unit is attacked, it ignores all but one of the damage dealt. Alright, moving on, we have the Scion Epilogues book. This book is purely flavor text, it has no gameplay value whatsoever, and all this is for is when you defeat the Scion, you'll read the excerpt from the hero that you use. So if you defeated the Hydra, and you played as Kraken Lance, you'll read this excerpt. And it's just for fun. It's cool that they put that in there, but again, it doesn't provide any gameplay value. Moving on from the books, we have our Neoprene Mats. First up, we have our big game mat. This is going to be where most of the components reside during game. And I'll just cover a few of the sections real quick. Over here is the rival lineup section, so the solid circles are where you're going to put the rival units. The dashed circles are where you'll put the rival tactics, if they have any. On the right side, we have our camp. This is where we will put our tactics and where we will put our units. You also have your prowess cards section, where you'll keep your prowess cards, and you have an opportunity cards section. At the bottom of the mat, you have the region map, and this is used to identify where you are currently. I'm trying to find the token. Here's the token. The game comes with this golden encampment token, and this is just, again, used to show where you're currently located. You'll bounce around from event to event. These green ones are opportunity events, blue is sport events, red is bloodshed events. You also have these harbor icons. They look like a sailboat, and you can bounce from harbor to harbor. So rather than going step by step across the map, you can go to a harbor right there, and the very next turn you could be over here at this harbor. So that'll be useful to navigate the regions faster. You also have capital cities in each of the 8 regions, and these are used for Primus fights. They are also used for your Scion fight at the end of the game, and I believe all Scion fights happen in Vesuvians. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's true. And then you also, I believe, start in the capital city of your character's region. Moving on from that, you have the top part of this map, which is going to be where your arena is placed. Obviously there's no arena now, but the game comes with 4 neoprene arena mats, and they are double-sided to represent the 8 regions of the game. Quickly show all of those. this one here. So on an arena mat you have your deployment zones. That's this icon here, so this is where you'll place your units. And over here, on this mat at least, you have your rival deployment zones. They're numbered because the game will tell you to spawn their units at 1 or 2 or 3 or at the highest number that's available or at the lowest number available, things like that. And then there will also be a King of the Hill icon. This arena has special rules for that, and I'll show you that in a second. But this arena here has the King of the Hill icon here. This is it's mountains with a crown on top. That is the King of the Hill icon. And the reason that this one doesn't have one on the mat is because the rules, which I'll show you now. So these are the arena reference cards, and as I was talking about the Parthenon's arena back here, I will pull that card up just to show you what I was talking about. So here's the Parthenon's one. So you see the name of the arena up here. You see there are instructions for gameplay that are over here on the right. Over here on the left, this includes setup instructions, and this talks about the chariot. But importantly, the chariot has the King of the Hill icon. So if you did a King of the Hill event, this is the location, and the chariot moves around, so you'd have to stay on the chariot for your King of the Hill points. On the right side, in this blue section, you'll have benefits or bonuses for the local units. So this is the Parthenon's map. So if you had a Parthenon unit, or if the rivals had a Parthenon unit, they would gain this bonus. And this bonus, just for example, says only local units can occupy the 2 central hexes. So these black hexes right here, only a Parthenon's unit can go there. There's also a bonus and benefit for the chariot, but I'll let you discover that on your own. The most important thing for the arenas is going to be the enemy priority targeting list. So the enemies prioritize the flag holder first, meaning if you have a unit that's holding the flag, and given this is only for the capture the flag event, but if you have a unit holding the flag, they will be prioritizing that unit. If it's not capture the flag or you don't have the flag, they will prioritize a unit that's on the chariot, your unit that's on the chariot, if you have one. If you don't have a unit on the chariot, then they will attempt to move one of their units to the chariot. And that's why this is not bolded, this is purely just movement, because they want to occupy the chariot if it is unoccupied. If it is occupied by one of their units, they will target your hero if they can, if they are in range, and if your hero is out of range, they will target the strongest opponent. And there are 4 of these cards, all double-sided, just to match the 8 regions of the game. We also have Scion reference cards. So these are going to be your final boss in the game, and we'll use this as an example, even though I won't attempt to try and say its name, but over here you have its health, you have its range, which I assume that this one doesn't attack or something, because usually it would say range of 1 if it was just melee, so it's probably just special rules with this one. This number, even though this is the infinity sign, it's usually a number, just like that, and that is your limit to how many units you can bring with you. This one's obviously infinite. This icon is a Scion Bane. We will cover Banes further on in the video, but the Scion Bane that you use for this guy is Ravenous. In the bottom left you have setup instructions. In the top right you have their dice pool, and these dice are rolled each time on their turn, and it dictates what they do. Now you'll notice that there is yellow and blue here, and there are no yellow and blue dice, and that's because part of the setup instructions is to figure out when you throw those into his pool. But when you do roll them, if you roll a hit on a yellow or blue, you'll gain, for each hit, its Zom gains 1 scale. And that's relevant because down here, these are, in this box down here for the Scions, these are triggering events. So for this trigger event, when damage is dealt to its the amount of HP lost is reduced by the number of scales it has. So right here, the more yellows and blue hits that he rolls, he gains scales, which reduces the damage he would take. And there are 10 Scions total. All of them play differently. And moving on from that, we can go into our dice. I might just skip the video ahead because this is taking longer than I thought it would. Alright, so you have 3 arena dice, and these are just used for tracking numbers. They don't really give you an exact reason as to why they're in there, but for this Scion, for each hit, it gains 1 skill. I assume you're supposed to use these to track those scales because they don't give you another way to. So that's probably what those are for. It's also for playing King of the Hill. You need 6 points to win a King of the Hill event, so you'll track that with one of these. And I'm assuming there's other purposes too that you'll find out while playing. And then you have 17 attack dice. And the unique thing about these are there are 5 different levels or tiers of them. So yellow is going to be your worst dice. They only hit on 2 sides. And it's cool because obviously you can look for the sides that are hits, and that would take some time, just rotating the dice around. Or you can look at any side of the dice and see that there are 2 notches on the circle. And that means that this dice hits 2 times. The next best dice is, or I guess the next dice in the lineup, is blue. They hit 3 times, signified by the 3 notches. Next is green. They hit 4 times, 4 notches. Then black. They hit 5 times, 5 notches. Starting to see the trend, I hope. Next you have the 1 red die, and that have 6 notches. This dice hits on every single side. Not too sure if you can even use this as a hero. I know this is used a lot for the Scions, just to guarantee something happens on their turn. Just for example, no Pluto. Pluto rolls the red dice, and if he gets a hit with the red dice, he moves 2 hexes. Well, the red dice hits on every single side, so he'll be moving 2 hexes every single turn, assuming he needs to. After the dice, we can go over this hero tracking pad. Probably should have done that before the dice, but it is what it is. The hero tracking pad is going to be individual to your hero, not all of your units, just the hero you select, and it tracks your movement, your range, your health, leadership. Leadership keeps track of how many units you can have in your camp, not how many you can deploy. Blessings is a more finite resource, and they are harder to come by, and I believe that if maybe the only purpose for these is if your hero does die in combat, you can scratch off a blessing and you'll come back. You'll also circle the class icon for your hero that you select. Over here is where you keep track of your current dice pool, so you're allowed to have 4 dice. According to this, you might be able to have more through prowess cards or some other means, but off your sheet you can have 4 dice, so you might have 2 green, a blue, and a yellow, and this is going to be your dice pool until you either level it up or something else changes. Those would be the dice you roll if that was the case. Then you also have your axe, and this tracks your events, so whenever you do an event, you scratch it off. If you spectate an event, you scratch it off. And at the end of each act, acts 1, 2, and 3, you'll fight a Primus. And Primuses are just heroes that you selected not to play as. They're randomly selected, so you'll fight one at 1, 2, 3, and then at 4 you have to face the Scion. You can face them earlier in the act if you wanted to, but you cannot face them later. If you fail to fight them by this point, then you lose the game. The last thing you keep track of on here is Scion Influence. This is not a good resource. You do not want to get this. It's going to happen naturally, but the first 3 and all these other blank circles, so every 4th Scion Influence is when it's really bad. This icon means Bane, so you'll gain a Bane, and I'll explain those as we go, but just know that those are not your friends. Moving on from there, we can go to our cards. So we have our event cards here. There are 3 different types of events, as I mentioned on the map. So the red ones are your Bloodshed, your green is Opportunity, and then you have blue for Sport. I did not frame that right. There we go. So I'll go over Bloodshed and Sport first, as those are very similar. So Bloodshed, Sport. So you'll notice on both cards on the right side you have your lineup. The H means hero, and then these are units that you can bring in additionally. So on this one you can have 4 units total. On this one you can have 3 units total. And then on the left side of the cards you'll have the rival lineup. So on this one you will have 1 local unit. So a local unit means you're grabbing a unit for the arena you're fighting in. So usually you'll grab bag units, like these icons are bag units. So you'll use this bag. There's nothing in it right now, but the game comes with a draw bag. And inside you'll place a bunch of random units, and then when the game instructs you to grab a bag unit, you'll randomly draw 2 from the bag, and that'll join the rival lineup. But an L means local, and that means, in this instance, we're on the Parthians arena, so we will grab the first Parthians unit that we see, and that will be added to the enemy lineup. And then in the middle here, you'll see that there are specific instructions for them. Just for example, this one, when accepted, substitute the last unit in the rival lineup with a random unused Primus. So you actually won't use a local, you will use an unused Primus. That's probably going to be in the box, and you'll randomly select it. But that's why this one looks easy, because you can bring 4 and they only have 1, but it's not going to be a local unit, it's going to be a Primus. So that is going to be a hard battle. And then on the sport card, when accepted, you may discard any number of tactics from your camp to begin the event with the same number of King of the Hill points. So that's really good. You need 6 points to win a King of the Hill, but throwing away your tactics for this obviously makes you win this faster, but your tactics are a finite resource. You can get them back, but they're not permanent like prowess cards are, so this would be forfeiting that for an easier win, but making your life harder maybe in the later game. The only other important icon on here is going to be this icon here. This is the King of the Hill icon, like I showed you before. You draw this card, you have to do King of the Hill. Let's see if I can find another one. Okay, this one, you have to do a Capture the Flag. That one you could do Capture the Flag or King of the Hill. I'm not finding a sparring one. Where are the sparring ones? This one. So on this one you only can do a spar event. And there are cards where you can choose between all 3. And also one of the main differences between Sport and Bloodshed is in Bloodshed your goal is to eliminate all the units. In Sport you can eliminate all the units except for the Tribune. So the way that works in the story is the crowd comes to the arena to watch their beloved Tribune do a sparring event or do a Capture the Flag event. They don't want to see their Tribune die. So if you do happen to kill the Tribune, the crowd rushes you and your hero gets automatically knocked down to 1 HP. And HP is hard to recover, so you do not want that to happen. So keep the Tribune alive in a sport event, Bloodshed, kill everyone. The other event is an opportunity event. So when you go to a green icon on the map, you're going to draw 2 opportunity cards. You can read them both, and then you will select one to keep, and these are like side quests. So this one over here, in a single event, defeat at least 2 opposing units with your hero while your hero has 2 or fewer HP. So if you succeed in that, you will get the special prowess card Vampiric Blow. And this card, win a sport event in the Limosian, I think that's how you say that, region without playing any tactics. This one seems way easier. Tactics, you don't want to use every single battle anyway, so this one, I would probably take this one, and you would get the special prowess Veteran Tactician if you accomplish that. Let's get the special prowess cards now, actually. Let's slide the cards up more. And these are the prowess cards. So just for example, with this, I chose this one, the Veteran Tactics, or Veteran Tactician. There's only a couple of these special prowess cards, so we can just quickly look. So if I accomplished this opportunity, I'd get this Veteran Tactician card. After successfully completing a bloodshed event, you may gain one tactic in addition to your chosen combat reward. And this is permanent. So these are very beneficial. They go in the area on the bigger neoprene mat that I showed you. And these are definitely things that are going to make your life easier during the game. Besides these special prowess cards, you also have hero prowess cards, and these are specific to the hero. On the top here we have Nox, so we'll just go for the first one there. You can get these throughout the game by completing opportunity cards, or you start with, I think you start with 3 of them. But just for example, this one, Nox has Taunt. So this just grants her another skill. You'd have to read the skill unit, or the unit skills sheet to know exactly what Taunt does, but I'm almost positive it's going to make her the target instead of another unit of hers. So the enemy, like the rival, will have to attack Nox because of Taunt. Go ahead and put those to the side. And the last components are just chips. And Chip Theory Games, chips, these are their main components. Every single one of their games has chips in them. Even 20 Strong, which is a game on GameFound not too long ago, it was purely a card and dice game, and they added 1 chip just to make it a chip theory game. Alright, so we have our 8 heroes in here. On the back is purely just artwork, no purpose there. On the front we have all the important information. So like I said, you'll choose one of these heroes, and then you'll use the hero tracking pad to keep track of all the numbers. So the numbers on the front, if you're using them as your hero, are not super relevant to you. I believe the skills keep, and you'll have those still, but the dice and all 3 of these numbers do not apply because that's all tracked here on the hero tracking pad. However, if you face one of these as a Primus, you need to know what these are, and these I'll cover them now, even though they're the same on the other units, but we'll just do it now. So this green is going to be their movement, how many hexes they can move. This orange is the range, so this one is a melee character only, 1 hex away. This one has 7 health. Their dice pool is 2 green and 2 yellow. They are the attacker class. That's what these crossed swords mean. The bow and arrow is archer. I don't really know what that icon is, but that one means tactician. And the last one is defender. And then the only other important information here is their name, and then under their name are skills. Moving on from the heroes, or the Primus chips, we have the HP chips. Not too much to go into here. There are red ones and there are blue ones. I believe the intention is that you use red ones for your hero and your units, and the blue is for the rival. I don't think that really makes sense, as red is usually the bad guy, but that was the intention, I believe. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You can do what you want. Next chip tray. Just pull a couple out. So over here is a Bane. So the icon Bane. And like I said, when you get the Scion influence to pass over one of those Bane icons, you get a Bane. So you'll grab the first one that's available. And the first one that's available actually will be a Scion Bane. So the red one. This will be the first one that comes out, and you choose this based off your Scion reference card. So that Scion reference card that I showed you said we use Ravenous, so we would use this one. So the first time you pass the Scion influence icon, you'll add this one. It'll go in the bag because it says bag right here. And this one specifically, each time you defeat a rival unit this combat, all remaining rival units gain 1 HP. So it's permanent for the whole combat. This won't be in every single one of your combats because it goes in the bag, so it's randomly drawn. And even after the combat is done, this goes back in the bag. So this will be there permanently. There are ways to remove Banes. I don't know if you can remove the Scion Bane, but there are ways to remove Banes. So Banes are bad, and this is red one Scion Bane. But normally you will just get a normal Bane. And again, this one says bag, so this combat is lethal. I believe all combats are lethal, but maybe this means that the game is over if you lose that one. I don't really know. Let's see if I can find a different one. That's a bag one again. Bag. So here is a unit Bane. So it's still Bane, but this is a unit Bane. So if you get this one, it also goes in the bag, but rather than being one of these that just applies to the battle, this one joins the battle. And then the other type of Bane, try to find one, here. So this is a camp Bane. So if you get this one, it goes straight into your camp. And this one says, you must deploy your hero first in all bloodshed events that you have your hero in the lineup. So, even though the H is at the top, this is not the order. This means that you can deploy your hero and 3 other units. You can deploy 3 units. You don't even have to deploy your hero if you don't want to. But because of this, you'd have to deploy your hero in every single bloodshed, and you'd have to deploy it first. So that's what camp Banes mean. Let's put these back. Then you also have these thicker chips, and also your hero chip, and these are the Scion chips. They're the same thickness to easily identify them, but every other chip is, I want to say half the size, I could be wrong, but they are skinnier. And then, I already showed you the hero. So, Scions, you just have artwork on the front, and it just says Scion on the back, and that's just how they are for all of them. All the information you need for these is on the Scion reference cards. What are these black ones? These are other Scion units. Oh, I'll pull one out. So, 2 Bane units. Well, these 2 Scion units are for Scion battles. They are not the Scion specifically, but they are just in a Scion battle. These are the snakes. I believe. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like, just going off the name, Zahhak's serpent. This is Zahhak. So these are more than likely used for his battle, even though he has his own Scion chip. Then you have these yellow chips. So what these are opportunity units and opportunity tactics. So these are gained through doing opportunities. So see an opportunity card. So this one right here. Have at least 2 neutral units in your camp. This opportunity cannot be completed during Act 1. It's honestly really easy, but neutral units aren't the best, so having it in Act 2 or greater is not great, but this one would resolve itself if you just don't recruit too many units. And by accomplishing it, you get special unit Amensis. So what you would do is you'd go through the yellow chip pile. I'm just going to spread them all out to find it as fast as possible. Right here. Goes to the side. So if you accomplish this opportunity, you get this chip. And he just gets added to your camp just as normal, and they are just going to be generally better units. Now they aren't local to any region. They are purely like a neutral unit, just no home, no region, but they are just generally better. These white chips, and there are more of them, so we'll get into that. But these ones are going to be for arenas. These 2 are arena-specific units. I don't know which arena is for, but it will tell you. And then we have our last chip tray. So all of these different, distinct colors are the region units, the local units. Parthions, I believe, are the gray, so I'll show you one of those. Parthions. So, again, same exact how the heroes / Primuses are. Same type of information, 2 movement, 1 range, 3 health, 1 black, 1 blue dice. Alright, you already know all about all that, but what's important is this is a Parthion's unit, this is the Parthion's field. So this unit can go here, whereas Just to bring this guy back, he's not a local unit, so he can't go on here. I don't know why I flipped him over. He can't go here. Parthenon unit, he can go there. There are more white chips here. Get the rest of those out of there because they're just more local units. So you have tactics. Let's see what we got. I want to show you the chariot if I can find it. Oh, they're in here. Alright, so this is the chariot. So this is the thing that's actually used in the Parthenon's arena. Then you have tactics. So the tactics are dedicated for the classes. So just for example, the hamstring, this is the tactic or tactician tactic, and this one says this unit cannot attack on a turn it uses its movement. So this one is used against your enemy, or they're used against you. And if you have a tactician, then that's the one that they would bring in, if they're allowed to bring one in. Let me see if I can show you what I mean. Okay. So this right here, this L local unit has a T right here. So the local unit that gets brought in will bring a tactic with them. So let's just say that it is this Parthenon unit, Camel Knight. He is a defender, so he'll bring in the defender tactic. And this one says this unit is fatigued until the end of its next turn. So he'll come in and he'll also bring this tactic with him. That's hamstring and stun. Then you have adrenaline. Get the cards out of there. This unit has +1 movement, so this is a benefit that you would apply to yourself or the rivals would apply to themselves. And the last one is bolster health. This unit gains 2 HP. And I believe that this can be above a unit's maximum, so you can use this to somewhat kind of heal them, or you could give it to them as like temporary health points. And tactics are one-time uses. They might last the entire battle, like this one would last the entire battle until that HP is lost. This one would last the entire battle, but as soon as the battle is done, the tactics go away. And past the tactics, you have these 2 chips, and I believe that this is the flag chip. I don't think it said, yeah, it just said right. I believe it's the flag chip. I could be wrong. I mean, it looks like a flag, so that's what I'm going to go with. And I believe this is the Tribune chip. So in the sport event where one of the units is the Tribune and you don't want to kill them, I believe this is the chip that signifies that they are the Tribute, or Tribune. And then you also have these neutral chips. So these are going to be what you start the game with. You're going to start the game with the hero that you select, and then you're also going to start with some starting units. And you'll know that based off the final page in the rulebook. It tells you which ones you start with. And you have the attacker, you have the defender, the tactician, and the archer. So you have one of each of the 4 types. And then moving on from there, alright, so the last component in the game is the stadium seating, like I said. So this is a very nice plastic box. You lift the lid off, and I believe that you can even do this to make it look like more like a raised stadium. Yeah. So the purpose of this is to store a lot of the components. So just for example, you can take 3 decks of cards, place them in there, and you're supposed to see the top card for each thing. That's supposed to help you plan for what you're doing next. So as you can see, the 3 sets of cards are in there. And then you also can store some dice in here. And this doesn't fit all of the dice, so I believe the purpose of this section is for either your dice pool or the Scion dice pool. I can't imagine it's your dice pool because your dice pool is just 4 dice, so that would look a little weird. So I believe it's for the Scion dice pool, because as you can see here, they're lengthy. So I believe that's what that's for. It might just be to store some dice. You also have spots to store all of the units from the specific regions. So there we have, might as well do the same as we go. The blue is the Atlanteans. We have gray, which is the Parthians. Just trying to get them all facing the right way. Parthians go there. Purple is the new Argonauts. I don't think these have to go in a specific order. I could be wrong, but I can't imagine that there is a reason for them to be in a specific order. Then, what are those? The Limoges. Green is the Amazons. Orangish yellow are the Pluto's refugees. And then the light green ones are the Kunlun. There were 2 leftover chips, so I'll just grab real quick. Another Atlantean, another Limoges. And then you have this spot in the middle, but we're all out of regions. So what that one is for the opportunity chips. I don't believe that they have to go forward facing or backward facing because you have to look for the specific one anyway. That goes there. And then the last spots are just these 4 bigger spots. And what the point of those ones are is, so you choose your hero. So this is my guy, that's who I'm going to play as, sure. And then the rest of them are randomly drawn. I think we put them in the bag, but let's just say we're randomly drawing them. So we got these 3. So we have the Primus you'll fight at the end of Act 1, the Primus you'll fight at the end of Act 2, the Primus you'll fight at the end of Act 3. The rest of the Primuses just go back in the box, I believe. And then the last spot over here is for, probably guessed it, is for your Scion that you'll play or battle against at the end of Act 4. So hopefully I can kind of show this a little bit. That looks very nice. And that covers all the components for Hoplomachus Victorum. I'm probably going to record a gameplay now, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one.